Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome in today for episode 91 of the Podwans podcast. I'm your host, Char, joined by my co-host, Luke.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
And Hereth Productions.
How's it going?
Hope everyone's having a great Thursday night. Today we're going to be discussing Season 3, Episode 6 of Star Wars Rebels, titled The Last Battle. We're going to be diving into Captain Rex and his little PTSD moment with fighting alongside battle droids. It's going to be a very fun episode. Lots of Clone Wars era tie-ins alongside with the Empire. It's going to be a whole mix and match of fun and games. So, Luke, Hereth, are we ready to get the show on the road?
Absolutely.
Let's go.
The Jedi Knights are all but destroyed, and yet your task is not complete, Inquisitor. The Emperor has foreseen a new threat rising against him. The Podwans Podcast.
All right, and here we go. So, we got one guest on today. One guest. And he is quite the participant for Podwans. He's been on for Rebel shows, Clone Wars shows, reactions, watch-alongs, everything. And he's always in our chat, he's always showing support, and I'm glad that he's here to talk about The Last Battle. Let's bring in Pat at St. Pat Separatist Rebel.
Hello.
How you been, man?
I've been busy and a little stressed, but I'm good. And I'm always glad to talk with Star Wars with you guys.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
We love having you on, man. You bring a different dynamic, and you are my nemesis.
And that's
You
why
have-
I'm
Yeah,
excited
I get to talk about Separatist and clones today.
Oh, we
it's a very cool concept. It's a really cool thing that they did in Rebels.
It's one of my favorite, if not my favorite episode.
Yeah.
It's very weird, but it's also amazing to watch and see clones and droids working together to fight the Empire. It's so cool. But yeah, Pat, where can the good people find you on social media?
You guys can find me on TikTok at St. Pat Separatist Rebel, and on Twitter at St. Pat of Stars. I'm going to be adding a few other platforms coming soon, so I'll keep those details coming up. But so far, those are the two main ones.
Awesome.
So we're gonna, since we only have one participant today, one guest, I guess I should say, participant, guest, same difference. By the way, these all even though these are pre-recorded, I have noticed that our derailment obviously is from the chat.
I was gonna say that. I noticed that. I was gonna make a joke about
Yeah.
that earlier.
Yeah.
So, Kenny, I blame you for all the derailments if you're listening.
No, literally, every single one has been like
On the rails.
Seriously, like, hey, we haven't derailed once.
Well, there was one derailment, I guess. Until
Oh,
the
yeah, I
distraction.
guess so.
Wow,
but,
Luke, you're breaking the illusion. I thought it's been 3 weeks and I haven't showered and I've been disgusting and I've been sitting here.
We have been to Star Wars Celebration. Well, some of us are still in London at this point.
Wait,
So-
why am I in the same location? What the?
What?
What? the fuck?
What? This isn't London. What?
Am I force projecting myself into my house?
Hey, yeah, or as Char says, send an Instagram reels while he's pooping.
TMI. Jesus.
Oh,
This hasn't been chaotic, so we're keeping that in. So Pat, I know you're a big separatist person. So what was kind of
I
your
am.
reaction to seeing this episode for the first time and kind of getting validation in a way?
it was. It's that word exactly that you used, validation. Because I would talk about, hey, it's the Clone Wars is not as black and white as it's projected by Lucas in the prequels. That there's actually some real arguments and political concerns going on there. But the way he presents it is very much like, because of the Jedi's are on the side of the Republic, the Separatists are evil because there's a Sith on their side, and that's all of the conversation that was going forward. But like Ezra, sweet child, finally gives some words of wisdom to both sides, and then that ending with the Empire coming up just completes it.
Yeah. It's an interesting episode because yes, I know that the separatists were not both sides were played. Obviously, I know that, but I do tend to go towards the Republic side of things because, good guys, separatists
And
from a certain point of
and
view are the bad guys, but really they're not. And I find that the most interesting
and
thing in all of the
Well, I
prequels.
mean, hey, Luke, from in the rebels' point of view, they're the heroes. From the Empire's point of view, the rebels are terrorists. So
Yes.
and
Yeah.
Luke, and anyone else who sees the separatists as bad guys are completely valid because Dooku, being the Sith he is the one who's putting people like Admiral Trench in power, who are putting people like we see on that planet where um, the Nemorian comes up with a device that kills all life, or gives the Zygerian slavers um, the power to do what they do, and it's because he's completely isolated the separatist parliament from the rest of the galaxy, and so any of the real political like motives that they have gets lost, and that's the point of the whole puppeteering, you know.
Yeah, and I'm gonna bring this up, even though it's not gonna actually. I'm gonna spoil something. This is not in my interconnectedness, but I'm thinking about this as we're talking about it. With Bad Batch actually being out now, and we had that episode with Cody and Crosshair. We did go into this topic a little bit in Bad Batch with the Separatists rebelling against the Empire and like activating droids and being like, "Fuck you! This is how we're gonna fight back."
Well, and also you have to remember in season 1, Raxus. What
Mhm.
happens on Raxus? Like they save the separatists, governor.
Yeah,
Like that's like a big thing. And you're absolutely right, Hereth. We do see that in season 2 of Bad Batch, and it is eye opening.
and we're gonna also probably get in Survivor with all the B1 battle droids
That
and
is true.
the droidicas.
Yeah,
B1
absolutely.
B1 battle droids, my my little droids that shouldn't.
No, you're
I
absolutely right.
My B1 battle droids are my favorite Star Wars droids, and I always say that they make perfectly any other form of service but battle droids.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, they're wonky and stuff like that. But now we are going to talk about the stories, or the story of the last battle. All right. So the last battle, basically, Ezra, Kanan, and Rex are sent to. They get a beacon, and they investigate it. Come to find out that it is with active separatist droids and a droid commando. They are captured. The commando gives them a challenge to see who really won the Clone Wars. And throughout this entire time, Rex is basically having PTSD and trying to prove that the Republic, won the war. And obviously, the command droid thinks that the Separatists had won the war. And ultimately, they do this. Rex is able to help. I mean, Rex, Ezra, and Kanan are able to. Oh well, wait. They send Zeb too, because Zeb is held as a hostage, because they run through a simulation, kind of like simulation, and Rex wins. Then Ezra points. So then the Empire finds out about the beacon as well. They show up. Ezra is able to say that both sides were played. Nobody really won the war, and we get this nice little realization from Rex and the command droid, and they fight off the Empire. They both are able to escape, not without any casualties. And Rex is able to get his closure, because at that point in release, he really hadn't gotten closure for anything at that
And you
point.
get the iconic Kaden quote. Ezra's like, "Why is he doing it? He has to finish this battle.
Yep, yep.
He
And
has
this,
to do this."
hence why it is called the last battle. So my first question is, how does the dynamic between Rex, Ezra, Kanan shift throughout this episode, and what does this reveal about their individual characters?
I think something that I really liked about this episode, when talking about that dynamic, is how Kanan kind of steps back from that Jedi General role that you normally associate with him, and it's because he was a Padawan during the Clone Wars, so he's never that. But Rex also starts out calling him General, then he calls him Commander another time, and then he just calls him Kanan. And so the dynamic that Rex goes into this battle, even before stepping foot into the hangar, is that it's a separatist ship. I have Jedi around me, so I'm their clone. But by the end of it, Rex is realizing he's his own person. He's among friends, and he's not controlled by the constraints of the Clone Wars anymore, or that programming of the clones. And
Yeah.
then Ezra, he was never a part of the Clone Wars. He was never a formal Jedi Padawan. And so he's off doing what they normally do on a Rebels mission, doing something and hoping it works out. And it's funny because it's something Anakin and Ahsoka would do, but it's very different applied in the situations. Anakin and Ahsoka are going into it with the rules of engagement, and Ezra isn't. And so I like to see how frustrated Rex gets at that, because it's very similar, but it's not what he's used to.
No, you're absolutely right. Like, he's used to the Anakins and the Ahsokas knowing what the clones are going to do the next step. Whereas Ezra, like, all he's been doing is like sneaking around, and he hasn't had to deal with full front conflict like war wise, up until this point. And it's very different to see how Rex deals with that. Even when like Hereth had talked about earlier, Kanan says like he needs to finish this. Like in a way, Kanan also needs to finish this
Mm-hmm.
as well, because he has. I mean, he doesn't have anything to prove per se. That's not the correct words. Um. Uh. Yeah.
Because of his experience with Order 66 and Dixon style, with the inhibitor chips and like his experience with that and the Canon in the Last Padawan comics.
Yes, exactly. So like, this is and then this is supposed to bring you back to Clone Wars, and this is why I truly do enjoy this episode, because it's like they're at that point, because we didn't get season 7. This was the final chapter, in a way.
Yeah, it even has the Clone Wars theme at the end of the credits.
Yeah. It's so interesting to see Ezra grow and like see like and just be more knowledgeable, because Kanan doesn't really talk about the Clone Wars all that often. Like, he's got his own trauma. He doesn't really talk to like the knowledge that he knows of the Clone Wars is, Kanan says, like, the bare minimum. Like, Rex is the only one that truly like kind of goes into detail. I mean, look at the Booga, when they were on the planet where they first meet Rex. Like, Rex goes into detail,
when
like
they're fighting off the Jupa.
Yeah, when they're finding off the Jubok. Like, he's like, well, back during the war, like my Jedi general would do this, and this. And like, that's the only knowledge Ezra truly has of this. So it's very important to see these characters, even from the beginning of the episode to where they are at the end of the episode, make leaps and bounds to kind of connect with each other.
It's almost like Ezra has to pry at Kanan to get the information out of him. He has to like
Yes.
claw at him and be like, "What's going on? What's going on? I need information." And then Kanan will eventually be like, "Oh, this is what happened." I mean, he like you said, the bare minimum is just like 2 sentences and it's out.
Yeah, and it's very important for all three of the characters because, yeah, like it's important. I feel like this episode being where it's at, right? It's we're in because this season has 22 episodes. It's kind of like a good like little mission for Ezra to learn about what the conflict was really about.
And then it also, if you think about it, if you're looking at the large scale story of Rebels, right? It sets up the finale in a way because when Ezra is encountered with Palpatine, he's like, "I know who you are.
Yeah,
I've
exactly.
seen this before. You're the man that just ruined everything."
Yeah, exactly. So it's a
And-
big. Yeah, go ahead, Pat.
Oh, and I was about to, and it's a big moment for the threes bonding and specifically how they operate in the future. Because if you watch the Rebel seasons and episodes since Rex come in, him and Kanan begrudgingly fall in perfect step with each other. They've got
Yep.
that clone Jedi dynamic, and Ezra is kind of off by himself because he doesn't understand where he fits in with that dynamic yet. And slowly through missions, they kind of figure it out. But it's not until this one that you really see them working in sync with each other.
No, yeah.
And it's because they finally, Kanan and Rex finally get past, or not get past, solve some of what was happening between them because they got to be in the midst of it together. So they're learning about each other then. But Ezra also gets to see why Kanan may not want to talk about the Clone Wars, or why Rex may like really be not obsessive but like into the Clone Wars, if that makes sense.
And then also, what's cool about this too is the tactical droid that's there is Kalani, and we've seen him before too in the Clone Wars. He was the tactical droid that was sent to Onderon to help out King Rash and the people on Onderon. So I mean, he's not some like obscure droid. Like we've seen him plenty of times in the Clone Wars before, and Rex was there on Onderon, and so it's just like it's not only like they're having like Rex is having flashbacks from the Clone Wars. But I mean, he's had to fight Kalani before too.
Isn't it the same tactical battle droid that was during the Orders arc when Top flipped out and
He was in the episodes before the Gathering, so it was
before the Gathering? Okay, yeah, he's season 4.
Was he also
Mhm.
the tactical droid? No, he wasn't the tactical droid on Ryloth. Never mind. He wasn't the one on the tactical droid on Ryloth because those other tactical droids were different. They had the square heads that they used.
and there were some that had different colors.
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
there was K2B4, the purple and gold tactical droid for Kobe Bryant.
Yeah.
But there's like many different ones. But Kalani was it wasn't just some little character in the Clone Wars. Like he played a big part of the Onderon insurrection and everything. So
Yeah, absolutely. Like and it's big, and it is big. This is a big moment for these three, and I feel like it's a teaching moment for Ezra, and it's a teaching moment for actually it's a teaching moment for all three of our characters, if you really think about it. Because I mean, Ezra does drop some knowledge, like we've talked about, and Kanan kind of opens up a little bit more, and Rex is able to finally let go.
mhm.
You get the other iconic quote of "Battles leave scars, some you can't see."
Yep, absolutely. Now let's talk about Ezra's explanation. He gives this he talks about how when the Empire starts to show up, he says, "Really, you both were played by the Empire. Nobody won but the Empire. Like you all were played, and we
Mhm.
don't and we and even before that, he's like, how do, like it's been a I watched this episode like last week, so it's kind of like not as fresh in my mind, but
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he says he mentions like because Rex and the command droid have this back and forth about, oh, we won the war. No, we would have
Mhm.
won the war. Like this back and forth, and then Ezra's like, it doesn't matter because neither of you won the war. Like the
Well, I think
Because the people who won the war are out there right now.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, Pat.
so I think it's like Rex is insisting that he won because of how they progressed, and
Yes.
then Ezra Sepin's like, technically, these droids are rotting and breaking down. We would have been overwhelmed
Yep.
by the battle droids, and that's when like Kalani steps in saying, yeah, we he gives an odd or something like that, and then Ezra's like, well, yes, but then he goes into that whole explanation about you guys weren't meant to win, neither of you, and
Yeah.
that there's stuff going on outside in the Republic that was going against both of you.
Yep. But so the question is, how does Ezra's explanation of how the Empire manipulated both the Republic and the Separatists provide a broader understanding of the motivations and tactics behind the Clone Wars for both Rex and the command droid?
Look, analyzing the Clone Wars battles as I have sometimes in the territory gained and the territory taken, there is no goal to either side's what planets they're taking and what planets they're not. Most of the battles take place in the Outer Rim, strongholds that the Republic have no or very little representative planets in, so territory out there wouldn't matter to them on a political scale. Most of the Separatists planets tend to be outer mid-rim or the few outer rim territories that were in the Republic, and they're just doing empire building for empire building. They're not. It's not really. They could be strong and they could be vigorous as a government, as a political system, without having to take over the planets that they are. And so all these battles that's going out in the Outer Rim and these different sieges are just causing panic and causing tensions just to cause tension, which obviously was Palpatine's main plan.
No, yeah. And it's very eye-opening for Rex because he like hears this and he's like, wow, never thought of it that way.
Mhm.
Even with the knowledge that we have now with Order 66, watching Siege of Mandalore, looking at all these things, it gives a wider perspective of Palpatine and how crazy his plan was.
Mhm.
It gives the illusion of, because I feel like sometimes Star Wars fans look at manipulation, right?
Mhm.
Like Palpatine is the number one manipulator in all of the Clone Wars. Well, in all of the
All
Star Wars
time.
saga.
All
Yeah.
time.
Yes.
man.
I feel like we should insert
Yes.
the quote from Chris from Dark Side Divas. He's a messy bitch.
Yes, he is absolutely the biggest, messiest bitch ever. And like he is always 6 steps ahead of his opponents. Whether that be the Jedi, the Republic, the Separatists, like he's always pulling the strings.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, for example, when Maul decided to come back and wreak havoc, what did Palpatine do? He used that to his advantage.
He sat back and let them argue over and be like, "Oh, you think Maul is the Sith Lord? I don't know. Maybe that's possible."
No, yeah, and it's just like Ezra's able to really kind of get it through both of their heads. Like, y'all were pawns, and it's blatantly obvious coming from a kid that was born right after the Clone Wars had ended. Like, literally, he was born on Empire Day.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's like his birthday is synonymous with the Empire rising to power.
Yeah.
Like
And-
that's I feel like with his perspective of that big moment, it's able to like give the perspective of, well, y'all didn't win. Like, and he doesn't have much knowledge of it, which makes that explanation that he gives more impressive.
Yeah, and also another like moment that comes to mind with Palpatine gaslighting post Clone Wars era is Bad Batch clone conspiracies when he
Yes.
used the entire clones against them and said, "Oh, sounds like we need to replace them and make my stormtrooper plan come available." Like and Echo even says he was 6 steps ahead of us the entire time. We fell into his trap, and he used it
Yeah.
against us.
Yeah,
He was 6 steps ahead
talking
until
about,
episode 6.
He was still ahead of it until episode 9 because he died
Yeah.
before it. He came back.
Yeah, he was 3 more steps ahead of everybody. But no,
6 plus 3. I don't know.
math. I can do math.
Talking about Palpatine's manipulation, one of the things that really stood out to me watching this again today and then the first time is Kalani's mention of Order 66.
Yep.
How even to a logical battle droid, he looked at gotta give him props that he didn't shut down because that's smart.
Yeah, which
he realized that I was like that's fishy, but like he goes he just casually says, "Oh, the Jedi betrayal and ended the war," and like so that's even the Palpatine had set it up so well that even made sense. Order 66 and the reasons made sense to a computer brain.
yeah, because they're always looking at it from a tactician standpoint.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like they like that's such a good point, Pat, because it's like he was so manipulative and so smart that he even tricked the droids into thinking that was a logical reason for them to shut down. Like, and that's also the like craziest part is that he knew that and that's another reason why the separatists went with droids. Because if it were the clones, think about this on the other side, right? If it were switched and there were life forms seeing that happening, that would have flipped the script. They would have been like, whoa, that's a little fishy. Like, and then they're like being told to stop attacking the enemy. Like, that's weird. Like, they would be fishy. Whereas the droids are like, okay, just go with it. You know what I mean? That's the crazy part about this whole thing. And then it's like, obviously the revelation and then finally kind of going through the battle and being successful. Like, it's, I truly do think that this episode is one of the better one-offs in Rebels, because it does such a great job obviously Hereth interconnecting with the saga as a whole, because the Clone Wars is a huge event. Hence why we keep going back to that era, because it is a widely
Those
it's
3 damn years.
yeah and the time period after it, because there's a lot of fallout, and we're seeing that in Bad Batch.
And one more thing I want to add was like when the Empire comes and the B1, bless his heart, goes out to meet the Imperials. And you see, and he's doing like he would normally do that. These B1s, as chaotic as the lower droid brains are, were a terror on the galaxy for most people.
Yeah.
And the Imperials regard him as if they're talking to a trash can.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right.
And so it just goes back and it brilliantly, and this is coming right after Ezra's speech, and it's like
Yep.
these guys were just puppets, and so the Imperials are not, even though they probably were little kids during the Clone Wars, they're not really, they don't mean nothing, even though they were killing machines in the universe perspective.
No, yeah. They didn't get the masses that the clones did in the Clone Wars. You know what I mean? Like, it's so funny because they go, oh, they must have them somehow they just turned themselves back on, and then they just blast the B1. Like,
They don't even think about it for 30 seconds.
No, like I went bam, and then they're like, what the? And then they just yeah, that's so true. But like, that speech is very, very important in connecting everything together, because it is a pivotal point in Rex's character, because like Kanan says, he needs to finish his fight. He finishes the fight and then finally realizes, and it kind of is depressing, that his whole war was for nothing. And that's the saddest part.
It's for nothing, but it also gives him the realization, the pivotal point to stay in this fight,
Yes.
to give that fight meaning, because he ultimately is in the Battle of Endor and is the thing that pushes the Empire over the edge and kills them.
Yeah, and
Or leads them to their
And
death in the
every
Battle of
time-
Jakku.
Yep.
every time I watch this episode, my brain goes to like what could have been. If no Order 60 didn't happen, the clones stayed on, and this is added to me by everything in the High Republic, that if the Republic had a separate force for law enforcement rather than just the Jedi for peacekeeping, the clones working together to fill and with the Jedi would have been so brilliant. The clones could have done the majority of what the Jedi were doing with the day-to-day, like justice and and law regulating, and the Jedi could have gone back to what they were in the High Republic. And since they work so well with each other, and we can see that with Kanan and Rex in this episode, the galaxy would have just been a great place.
Yeah. Agreed. Well, that's gonna be it for the story of this episode. Now it's time to dive into the lore. Char, you ready?
I am ready. Let's do this.
Don't be too proud of this podcast you have constructed. The ability to tell 3 interesting facts is insignificant next to the power of the law.
I'm
We
literally
are back. What's up?
I'm putting all the intros together, like one after the
So
other.
you can mispress me at my intro.
No,
for
because
Char's
I'm not
intro?
going to do that anymore. Sorry, y'all. Okay, go ahead.
All right, and we're here to talk about the lore of the last battle. Today's lore is about, or is, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. In this episode, we see Captain Rex and Jedi fighting alongside battle droids to fight the Empire. In Star Wars, there have been many times where our heroes and villains fight alongside each other, either for survival or they both have a common enemy. Some examples: Asajj Ventress and Obi-Wan team up to fight Darth Maul and Savage Opress in the Clone Wars. Rey and Kylo fighting the Praetorian Guards in The Last Jedi. Kanan, Maul, and Ahsoka fighting the Inquisitors on Malachor in Rebel Season 2. Bo-Katan helping Duchess Satine against Maul's forces in Season 5 of the Clone Wars, which is funny because she even tells Satine, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And there's been plenty more. What is one character in Star Wars you would love to team up with, even though you hate them?
Oh, good God! Do we have time?
It's that
Hold on.
scenario. It's that scenario where you hate them, but you would love to fight with them.
Why did you have to throw such a loaded question?
I don't know. Pat, we'll give you a minute or two to think about this.
Oh my god, I need time to think about this
Yeah,
too.
so generate your answers, and I'm sure the chat will type in one character that they would hate, that they hate, not just to hate to go against, but just hate in general.
I love how you said
But they would
generate the
enjoy to
chat.
fight alongside them.
I can't
See,
see
this-
them. They're not there.
Char, this is like this is a hard question because you know what character I hate the most. I would not want to work with them.
Luke and I have
No,
the
but
same
that's
answer.
the thing. You may not like them as characters, but would they be effective and helpful if you were to fight alongside them?
Luke and I have the same answer. No,
Either
they're
for
not
survival
effective.
or if they have a common enemy. Because this is what this episode's all about. It's all about fighting the bigger fish, eating the bigger fish,
There's always a bigger fish.
which is the Empire.
Oh my god,
The clones and the droids were all pawns.
Mm.
So who's one character you would hate, or so you would love to fight with, even though you hate them?
I wouldn't love to
Okay,
fight with
I'm
my
gonna have
person.
to go with my second. I'm gonna have to go with my second most hated character for this.
Really? You
Fox.
can't even you. Oh. Oh.
Oh.
Hux?
Really?
Fox.
Fox.
Oh,
Fox.
Fox. I thought you said Hux.
Fox. You hate.
I would
Wait,
not.
wait,
I
Why
would.
Fox?
I would
Why
not
Fox?
be because okay. So obviously my first hated character is Meebar Gascon. I would be
Oh no!
You can't fight with him.
That was
and I could not
Imagine that.
handle his personality.
Reaver
I am not
Oh.
He's like,
orders
that's like,
from you,
hey,
Beaver.
hey, me ready to go in there? He's like, I'm ready when you are.
And then Pat would be like,
But-
"Shut up."
I would take him and I would stuff him in his little droid dome thing.
Oh yeah, peasy.
and just walk away.
Oh my
Oh,
god!
But-
awesome.
I'm just
but,
trying to imagine
Fox,
Pat
because-
and Reaver Gastor against the Empire.
So Pat said Meeber Gascon. Wait, no, he said Fox. He
Yeah,
said
Fox.
Fox.
Yeah, but he didn't really elaborate on Fox yet.
I'm
Yeah,
why
going
Fox?
to.
Tell us a little
So,
bit about Fox. You hate
because
him,
Fox,
but
I-
you would
hate
love to
him,
fight
but
alongside
after
him.
everything, he's a clone, and I can't. Whenever I see him on screen and he's battling, he's a skillful tactician and weaponist, and I think
Oh, we're well aware.
yeah.
We're well aware he's good with his
And
weapons.
so I think I would be able to, if it comes down to whatever the goal is, I could put my my grievances
feeling?
aside, just because he's useful, and I know if he is the same goal as me, he's not going to go against me, and plus I can always just stun him when it's over.
And well, let me tell you, Pat, you're gonna be getting a lot of feral points from Rem after you saying that.
Yeah. Oh, jeez. Yeah, Remy. Oh
You-
goodness.
You know
Since
who-
you're showing a little bit of respect to Fox, she's gonna love that. Love that.
Yeah, love that.
You know who couldn't put their differences aside to work with Commander Fox?
Chris,
Anakin Skywalker.
Yeah. Open this door now. I love that.
No,
scene.
I was talking about the Vader
Oh
2017.
yeah. Oh yeah. That's right. Oh yeah. Hey, Fox. Yeet.
No, because Fox shoots him. And he's like, oh, I thought you were a Jedi, and then when DaCosta knew reveals all the information, he's just like, oh, boo!
Yeah. Just come. Just.
Besides-
See you later.
besides-
Yeet.
with Fox is a Coruscanti guard. I'm sure if I tag team with him, all those resources are coming with him, and so
Oh, that's fair.
it just
That's fair.
tactically it's just a really good choice.
Hereth.
Okay.
Yeah, what would you pick? Who would you pick?
I've been thinking about this long and hard, even though it's gonna kill me to work with this person. I know Luke's probably gonna say the same thing. It's gonna be like, God damn it, you stole my answer, Hereth.
No, it's right. 3, 2,
2,
1.
1. Kiadi
Kiadi
money.
money. But I'm actually not gonna take that because you're taking that. I'm going with Maul.
Why Maul?
I've never really liked his character, and he
I-
annoys me.
I
but
want
he is
elaboration. I want
he is ve-
elaboration.
He is very useful. He's chaotic. He wrecks shop. He's somewhat cool, but it's like, hey, bro, you've been pushing that boulder up and then falling down every single time. You just can't win, and I can't be associated with a loser like that, bro.
Fucking
So-
Sisyphus. Sisyphus.
The Sisyphus. Like, that man just gets so close every single time and just never accomplishes his whole end goal.
Char,
I always
Yeah.
make
you
joke with-
just won major respect points by naming Sisyphus, because everyone has a hard time naming him, and so you just
Sisyphus?
casually boom.
Rolls off the tongue. Yeah, I mean before I just say who mine is, but this is why I asked the question, because no matter how much animosity the clones and the droids have for each other, they had to join forces in order to beat the Empire in this episode.
Yeah,
No matter how much you hate Maul, no matter how much you hate Kiani Mundi, no matter how much you hate Fox, you have to team up in order to beat, fight the bigger problem. And for mine, This is my least favorite character. I hate him. I hate him with a passion.
Oh, I know what you're gonna say.
But I'm sure he's gonna be a unit on the battlefield, and that's General Grievous.
Oh, that's a good point. Oh my God, yes, that is so true.
I
And
hate
that-
Grievous. I hate Grievous. He cannot. He cannot. Every time he's faced a Jedi Master, he's always lost.
Yeah.
But on the battlefield, oh,
I mean,
I would love to have him on my side.
I'm just imagining Grievous post Order 66 with Char against Stormtroopers.
He's got like 12 arms now.
He has all the lightsabers.
Char's like, all right, we gotta
Call me-
upgrade this.
Call me
baby."
Char Dooku.
Oh,
You're in the Grievous.
yeah.
General Kenobi.
no, I just imagine, I just imagine Char giving Grievous whatever the Star Wars version of a baseball cap is.
Grievous wears the hat backwards for sure.
A backward like Imperial officer hat.
Oh my
No, but
God.
Hereth, elaborate on Keanu Mundi.
Oh god. I that one, like, out of everybody, I feel like Kiadi Mundi is the worst person to be the enemy of my enemy is my friend type shit because oh my god, he's such a dumbass. It's like
He's such
an
I mean,
idiot.
just here's the scenario, Hereth. You're a Jedi,
Okay.
and you're alongside Keanu Mooney on Magito. And Order 66 is called.
I'm
What do you do?
I'm stepping out of the way. He can go.
But if he gets shot down, then you'll most likely get taken down too.
I'll just
but,
jump
you
out of the
know,
way.
Who is better than one? So I mean, that's not teaming up. That's just
And that's what-
sacrificing.
I will sacrifice. It's for the greater
And
good.
then-
The enemy of my enemy is
and
my
then-
friend. You know, the clone troopers are my friend enemy. Kiadi Mundi is my enemy. So you know, the clone troopers are my
No,
friends
no.
in this scenario.
Then I come pick up Hereth after I've stunned Fox's.
Yeah, we win. We win the Clone Wars.
Okay, so the question here is: the enemy of my enemy is my friend. According to Hereth, is the enemy of my enemy is expendable.
Exactly, Char. You get it.
But for those that are in the chat, go ahead and put your thoughts in.
Yeah,
Okay,
who's
so-
one character that you would love to team up with, even though you hate them?
Kenny
Kenny
says,
will-
say Wolf of Adventurous.
Yeah,
We got
somehow,
Keanu Mundi because of his idiocy. We got Fox because not only is he a murderer, but he is good on the battlefield. And then we have Maul because he's just complicated and crazy. But he's good to have on our side. And same with Grievous. Grievous would just be a unit on the battlefield,
chaotic.
even though that I do not like him.
yeah, he's just chaotic. That's actually a really good choice, though, Char.
Thank
Because
you.
if you
It
think
is.
about it, like he's like indestructible. Like he would take down so many stormtroopers. Because like think about it, he does work against like regular troops and like Padawans and like Jedi Knights sometimes. But like if the
Porno
stormtroopers,
Darvab.
yeah, and like all he has to deal with the Imperials, stormtroopers.
Mhm.
And then if he has to face
And we
Vader,
all-
he's gonna
we,
get.
we all know the stormtroopers ain't hitting them.
Mm-hmm.
No, he's taking them
Charge-
out.
Char just has a lightsaber collection of his own to reward Grievous with after.
I do, yeah, man.
After, after every mission, new lightsaber. It's like a
Yeah,
Scooby-
I have a
Scooby
lightsaber. I'll be
Doo.
like, hey, fetch! And then he'll crawl.
Oh my
I
God.
just imagine the meme from Rise of Skywalker. Where he's like, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, when Ben throws the saber, it's just and then he jumps into the waters of Kefir. It's amazing.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good question, Char.
Yes.
That's a good question.
So yeah, that is it for the lore segment of the last battle. Let's dive into the interconnectedness of the last battle with Hereth.
In my experience, there's no such thing as luck.
All
I
right, we-
always screw up Chars, but I never screw up Hereth.
Sounds like some personal bias. Anyway,
Oh man.
we'll touch that. I don't know. I just said just to throw it up because I'm chaotic. Anyway,
I just-
we got the fun out of the side with Char's question. Now let's go back to emotional damage.
Ben, they're
Good
done there.
old emotional damage. We love Star Wars at its core because of it. So, how does this episode connect back to the Clone Wars, particularly in the terms of its exploration of the psychology toll of war on the clone troopers and its emphasis on the personal relationships between individual soldiers?
Soldiers, you're tired. I am too, I get it.
Hmm.
Hard-hitting
think-
questions.
I think with as much as we hear the phrase in the Clone Wars where it's our job, it's our bread for wars, it was a long time coming that we get to see the aftermath of it on the clones. And that it's they had they knew they were going to be done at some point. They didn't know what they would be doing, but they knew the war couldn't last forever. And so there's always going to be that they know that their one purpose was this for life, and like it's like if a kid was raised by the parents saying this is your life goal, but you never meet that life goal.
Luke.
Yeah.
Like, man, yeah, it's now what we're seeing in Bad Batch. Like, literally, we're seeing this in Bad Batch. Like, this is basically the establishment throwing them out and basically saying, "Fend for yourself. You're not our problem anymore."
Well, we saw in your number one favorite show of all time,
Yeah,
Obi-Wan
Kenobi. Kenobi. Yeah, I mean, you see that. It's so it's just like real life. r- It's just like real life, right?
Mhm.
Like I can't speak for any other country military, but like um like the way we treat troops nowadays is not great.
Mhm.
When they come back from doing tours in different places and try to and we put them on these pedestals, right? But then when they come back, when they have these emotional psychological issues, we're not giving them the best care that we can.
And it's going back to George Lucas's favorite historical parallel, Vietnam.
Mhm.
When
Yes.
soldiers came back from Vietnam, even though all these people and hard conservatives like rooted for them while in the battle, once they came back home, they got spat on, they got talked down to, they got disregarded. And
Yeah,
it's not like it's like the very opposite of World War II or World War One, where we got these GI Bills to help them get through things. No, it's after this huge social change of Vietnam, the way we looked at soldiers and how they were treated on the return was completely different.
yeah. I mean, it's basically like the clones. They didn't get healthcare. They didn't get they didn't get like people to talk to. They talked to their own
Mhm.
to deal with these issues. And much like military, like the actual real world military, they like that bond of brotherhood is so strong. And I feel like Star Wars does a great job of paralleling the real world in that aspect where we don't
Oh, always in every
when
single facet.
yes, and it's huge because we see Rex deal with these issues in this episode.
And I love how Rex and the other clones deal with it because
Yes.
they deal with it so healthy. It's always taken with a mode of like, I've been through this, I got work through this, but it's okay to work through it. And to know that I'm not going to work through it all at one time.
Yeah, Pat,
Right.
and that's what gives me hope with since Rex is close with the Bad Batch because we all know where Rex ends up,
Mhm.
and it gives me hope that the Bad Batch do last longer than everyone presumes they will.
Right. And then also, I was going to say, speaking of the Bad Batch, again, this episode's going to come out after the show's done. So I don't know how the show is going to play out and how it's going to end.
Yeah.
But when Rex has his PTSD, he wakes up and says, Cody, where are you? And then he
Yeah.
looks at Kanan. What the hell does that mean?
Yeah. That's that. Yeah. We still have to get that other shoe to drop.
And
And
again,
we'll be getting that in real soon.
I'll plug Clonecast when we talked about Alanis' theory with Commander Cody.
Yeah.
Crosshairs with a bunch of clone troopers. I wonder who could potentially be there as well.
And Wolf.
Wolf 2.
And
And Nemec.
and Nemec, and it's this is a good episode to really dive deep into like the serious issues, because it does bring up a ton of serious issues. It's not we also have to remember this is a children's show, but it does not hold back on making a statement and telling you the hard truths.
The
Like Ezra,
motifs.
yeah, like Ezra has to tell that, like he has to be the one that goes, "Hey, you both were pawns," and it's the realization for both sides to be like,
Mhm.
"Kid's got a point. Kid's got a point," and I think that's the most fascinating part about this episode.
And speaking of that point, how does the encounter between Rex and the tactical droid reflect the series' large theme of redemption? How does it draw on the Clone Wars exploration of unique perspectives and experiences of clone troopers and tactical battle droids?
I mean, I think it's just tying loose ends, really, because at this point in time, I mean, this is this is like 3 BBY now,
Mhm.
Yep.
going to 2 BBY, because that's when Obi-Wan versus Maul takes place later in the end of this season. It's been long over between the droids and the clones. It's been done for 16 years now. 16 years plus, like, yeah, it's so for them to just like fix an old wound between the two, because still has this idea, because he was left on Agamar after Onderon. He still has this curiosity of like, the calculations for this battle will be concluded right after this war. But it doesn't matter what he's thinking, because that's long gone. And
Yep.
Rex knows that it's important to just do whatever it takes to fend off the Empire, because that's the main target right now. That's the main enemy.
Yep.
The Clone Wars have been done for over a decade. So for them to team up together to fight the greater cause is very symbolic. And I mean, I'm sure there's been times in history where enemies have fought together to take down, a tyranny or an empire or anything.
I
Um,
mean,
And
Pat
look at-
Pat probably knows it.
I mean,
Or-
there's World War II.
World War II,
The Soviets and us,
yeah.
the United States and
There's
Great Britain, and
there's a lot even going on right now that hits a little too close to home.
yeah,
Yeah.
And to that point, oh, I had something to say. What was it? It'll come back to me. Someone else go.
And just having them work together just shows that like nothing ever stays the same.
yeah,
Things change over time. And even when you have a tactical droid that's programmed to, protest any clone activity, but even the simplest understanding of that, hey, this is the bigger threat here, we need to work together, is clear is clear to them. And I think it's super symbolic when you think about how the droids are programmed, because they're like, oh no, we like clones, no one else, and they're blah 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 blah. I just think Rex's ability to overcome his PTSD to fight alongside droids it's a huge step, because I mean, with the Bad Batch right now, you see Wrecker and everyone whenever they see, because back when they were fighting droids, they hated them. They were like, yeah, more droids, let's get the droids. And fucking Wrecker just running in with his gun and then just punching him in the face and whatever. But I think it's super cool seeing them fight together.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
speaking of that, with how Bad Batch is connecting to this episode, we see in season 2, episode 1 with Tech. When Tech
Yep.
sees the Separatists, he doesn't think about the Separatists before the Clone Wars. He just
Nope.
views them as the enemy. They were my enemy. I killed them.
yeah.
and connect. Okay, I got my train of thought back again. In connecting to another show, one of my favorite Star Wars show, Andor.
Yes.
Mhm.
The episode where Luthen is trying to get Saul to team up with a separatist.
Yes.
And the separatists make up a huge portion of the rebellion.
Yep.
And this whole the thing about these mid-rim rebelling Imperial, now once Republic planets, now working with the enemy during the Clone Wars, and how Luthen's like speech to Saul about how he was a separatist, but he's what you need right now, and that everyone needs to just. It doesn't matter if you're separatist, partisan, or what other things he says. It's just the empire is what's the problem.
Yeah. And what's even more impressive too is how Kanan handles it. Because Kanan as a Padawan had to fight these droids. And then as he got older, he had to fight the clones because the clones were going after him. And he was sentenced to his death because an old man said so.
Well-
And so him having to not only, overcoming his fears with working with clones, but he also has to have a little, jog down memory lane with fighting along, not against droids, alongside droids.
Yeah.
So it's like two people that, have, these little battle scars in their head or in his head. It's a perfect example of just overcoming your fears.
And it also helps that Kane's been going to Bendu therapy.
Yeah. Yeah, the
Therapy.
Bendu's been essential these past few episodes with him.
And so it's like, because I feel like once he's been talking to the Bendu and all those spiders thing and seeing people who really are, it's helped his relationship with Rex a lot.
In the words of Yoda, he's unlearning what he's learned, and he's trying to find a new way to see, a new way to use the Force, and to find his path, even after a catastrophic event like losing his sight.
I need to make that a shirt, Bendu therapy.
I was thinking about that. I can just imagine an advertisement. Bendu therapy. It's good for the soul.
Oh wow. No, like it's like it's so true. Like that's such a good way to put it. My thought here, I was just thinking about this while you guys were talking. Okay. Never thought about this until now, right? Think about the Republic military for a second, okay? Most, if not all, the entire military made up of humanoids. There's not a ton of alien representation in the Republic military.
Mhm.
Besides Meeber Gascon. Like that's one military ranking that we see on screen anyway. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure in the Republic military we do not see any non-humanoid like leaders besides the Jedi.
Yeah,
And
there's.
look what
90% of the military are clone troopers.
yeah, clone troopers
I mean,
and
they were.
well,
yeah.
even clones that were officers as in the in the Republic Navy.
Mhm.
They were
They're
using
all
clones.
clones.
They weren't
And-
using any alien. They weren't using any alien. Like there wasn't much alien representation. I just thought about this, and it makes sense because it makes it easier
For the Empire
for
transition.
the Empire to just copy and paste.
And then that plays into Thrawn 2017 with the whole racism against
Exactly.
aliens.
So
Being
it's been,
copy paste phase.
And they've talked before about my theory that the Clone Wars is a colonial fight.
that yeah. That's true.
Most of the separate states planets are non-human.
Mhm.
With a few humans that have settled out there. Most of the mid-core and inner core have been settled by humans,
Yep.
and so they're mostly human, and so so that's what the biggest difference between the core worlds and the outer rim is how diverse the populations are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the majority of the time where you see alien species or alien representation is in the Senate.
yeah, in the Senate
That's the only.
and or
That's really
the
the
Jedi.
only. Yeah,
Or
that's
the-
really
or
the
the
only two
Jedi.
places that you can
And-
find that.
And speaking of which, like again, this is just starting an entire larger conversation. Think about Brotherhood.
Yes.
Kanan Namodia was stereotyped as
the Katasura-
evil. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone stereotyped them as like the evil, like people that were the part of the Separatists. When in reality, Kanan Namodia was its own
Neutral.
civilization
It was
and didn't have
neutral.
anything to
Yeah.
do with it. Yeah, they're all neutral.
Yeah, the Cadenamoidians were painted in a wrong light because of one leader.
Gunray was just
That's
a,
literally
just a gun. He was a gun dealer until the end of the war.
Yeah, it's so funny how people say, "Well, I don't my Star Wars doesn't need to be political. It's like, dude, look
has
at
to
it.
be.
Look
It
at
has
it.
to
It's
be.
Star Wars.
To
There
be-
you cannot have a
to
war
be-
without politics.
Star Wars needed to have politics in order to tell the story about how Palpatine got into power.
Yeah.
Because that's
No,
where it all stemmed from.
and
Palpatine was able to cloud the Jedi, rise into power, and with the Jedi Hubris, like what Luke says in The Last Jedi, Darth Sidious rose to power, wiped out the Jedi, and created the Empire. It was all done because of his political schemes. It had to be done.
the inspiration for Star Wars was George Lucas's sociology undergrad work. It's you have the films, the Japanese samurai films. Yes, you
The
have
Akira
Flash.
Kurosawa. Yeah.
Kurosawa.
Yeah, you have the Flash Gordons, but those are all aesthetics and modes of storytelling that George Lucas used to explore his sociology fascination and the studies of society.
Yeah, one of the things that I really found interesting about what George Lucas did as like the foundation for the rebels against the Empire was that he made the rebels like the Viet Cong,
Mm-hmm.
fighting against, you know,
The
the
Americans.
small band of rebels against, a pompous, powerful empire.
Which is no different than the American Revolution and the United States or the
Can-
14, 13 colonies.
13
colonies.
13th.
13.
Wow, Luke, you
Well,
didn't know
I
your
can't
history.
remember. I can't
It's
remember.
13, you
It's 13.
bozo.
Luke, do you have to sit in on my history, U.S. history class
No,
again?
I know my U.S. history. I thought I was pretty sure it was 13, but I didn't want to say it wrong.
Can I
So yeah, go ahead.
So go ahead. Go ahead.
No, go ahead,
Can I history nerd out on you guys for a bit?
Yes,
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay, so the Viet Cong. I've been on fascination about the history of the Viet Cong for a bit now, and so I've got a book called Ho Chi Minh. It's about Ho Chi Minh's rise up to Viet Cong and his interaction throughout the Vietnam. So Ho Chi Minh was a college student during World War One. He was at the Treaty of Versailles. We're in World War One. He was there to ask France to make and again, this is all tied into my whole theory that the Clone Wars is a war of against colonialism. He wanted to ask France to free
Yes.
Vietnam from its
Yep.
colonial colonizing, and France said no,
Of
and
course.
they got even more of the Indonesian territories and Southeast territories after that, because France and Britain and U.S. do what France, Britain, and U.S. usually do,
Yep.
and steamrolled over everyone. And so he was there studying politics and Western politics, and while in France, it's when he found a college that was teaching the communist philosophy. So he enrolled after his interactions in the treaty. It made him like spurn against the rest of like Western democracy and and anything. This is failing. It's only people using. So he turns to communism, and that gets where it starts, and because it's all about trying to free Vietnam for his people, and then when World War II happens, the United States OSS, the precursor to the CIA, does the exact same thing what we did with Iraq and Iran and the Taliban.
Yep.
With Russia, we go
Yep.
in there and we teach them how to do the things like Anakin's teaching Saul,
In the
and
Andronak. Yep. Absolutely.
and then after that they help Ho Chi Minh and his Viet Cong help expel the Japanese from Vietnam, so the U.S. doesn't have to stop there on its war in the Pacific. But after the war, U.S. denies Vietnam the right to free elections,
Yeah.
and because the Viet Cong were popular, because they're the ones that helped spurn the actions, and so it's this military giant and power that's a one perspective, very much like the core worlds, stopping these people in the Republic trying to make meaningful change for their planets.
Yep.
Because the policies made by the general public is hurting them, and that's what starts going to the separatists, and that's how you get Senator
Senator Bertoni.
Bertoni turning to Grievous in the Padme books, just like Ho Chi
Yeah.
Minh turns to communism because
Halliburtoni.
Yep. Yeah. No, that's.
Pat, you might as well call it colonialism.
Oh,
my god!
jeez.
And
Well,
with that, we're going to Char's for interesting facts. There's no better note to end on.
3 interesting facts about a certain Rebels arc that you didn't know about until now. Part 30, The Last Battle Edition. Fact 1. An animated upgrade. Updating the battle droid model had been long on the wish list of the Lucasfilm animation team working on Star Wars The Clone Wars, but it was never prioritized. As such, the same design lasted throughout the run of the series. The upgrade, which results on the droid more closely resembling its live-action incarnation, finally occurs in Star Wars Rebels. Fact 2. Original storyline of the episode. In the original outline of the episode, Ezra was to befriend battle droid B1268 and nickname him Clanky, but this was cut early in the episode's productions. Fact 3. The origin of Agamar. The planet Agamar dates back to 1993, where it was a setting in the Farlander Papers, a pack-in novella found in the Star Wars X-Wing Space Combat Simulator game. This is its first on-screen depiction, though it was mentioned in Star Wars: The Clone Wars. And there you have it. Those are the 3 interesting facts about the last battle.
That's incredible.
I love it.
Imagine if
Man.
Ezra had a B1 battle droid named him Clanky.
Oh my
Well,
god!
I think they took that concept and just gave it to Snap Wexley.
And
Well,
so
Mr. Bones.
I told
Yeah.
you B1s make any other the best droid companion, just not a good battle droid.
Oh my god, I'm trying to imagine a B1 battle droid and Chopper working together. Oh my god, the
good
amount of war
God.
crimes that would happen. in
Oh, but
Rebels.
I'm in charge here.
one of my favorite moments
Blah,
in the
blah, blah,
Clone
blah, blah,
Wars
blah.
is when R2 gets a squad of battle droids.
Yes. Yep. Absolutely. But it's now time to rank the episode. Pat.
You know what I'm gonna. It's my one of my favorites. If not my favorite of the Rebels. It's gonna be a Grand Admiral for me.
Interesting. I like that. Hereth.
Okay, I know for the last 2 episodes we've recorded, I've been making this argument about how I'm only giving the few. I'm only going the few. It's only the few. After talking about it and talking about it in depth, for a one-off at least, for just a one-off,
Yeah.
it's a Grand Admiral.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I have to switch my
Yeah.
opinion up. I'm sorry. It was gonna be Admiral, but after the conversation that we had, and like thinking about the episode
And how
everything
it
that happened,
connects with the real world and all of the real world facets and
it has to be Grand Admiral. I'm flipping up.
Yeah. Char?
It's a Grand Admiral for me because I'm like Hereth. I don't have a limit on how many I'll give a Grand Admiral because, I'll give credit where credit's due because you got clones, you got droids fighting the Empire.
Credit where
You
credit's
got great
due.
moments. You got powerful storytelling for Ezra, understanding the Clone Wars. You got, we got a tactical droid arguing with Rex about what their battle strategy is going to be. And it's just like 2 heads clashing together, but they end up fighting the bigger problem. So I love this episode. There's so many powerful moments, especially if you're a Clone Wars fan,
Yes.
that just shine in this episode. So I'm going to give it a Grand Admiral.
It's gonna be a Grand Admiral for me.
So we have a Grand. How many is that? Is our 4th?
5.
4,
5.
5th.
Yeah. I truly love this up. I as a one-off, I truly love this episode.
Yeah,
It's
it's really fun.
Because of all of the interconnectedness stuff that we get throughout the saga, the Clone Wars stuff, Rex just being Rex, and like Clone Wars is up there with Obi-Wan Kenobi for me because of the connections that I make with those characters are so strong, and like that's why I enjoy this episode as a one-off the most. Because we get more depth with Rex in particular. And that's something that they touched upon in the Clone Wars as a whole, but like to see this on a emotional, like what he goes through this whole episode is just great writing.
You don't see Rex yell at anyone very often in
No.
the Clone Wars, and then he just goes out on Ezra, and it's like it's a very shock. It's very much shocking when
I mean, the only other time you see it is him going against Pon Krell and Jesse. Those are the only two really times that you can see him.
But with
be
Jesse,
emotional.
I feel like with Jesse, it's not okay.
It's
how
more
do I
of a
describe it?
pleading. It's more of a
It's
pleading.
more of a plea, like Jesse,
That's
like
for
we've
sure.
been through this so much, like why this?
Or
That's
when
true.
Rex says or yells, "Stay back" to Ahsoka.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
that's
Or
more
like,
of a-
find him, find him.
That's fair.
Right before when where Rex tells Ahsoka to go find Fives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there, it's not. It's different than Ezra. It's like, it feels different.
Yeah, it does. It does. It really, really does.
But
But
man,
that's
this
gonna be-
episode's
yeah.
so fun.
It is.
Like this
It is.
is a fun episode.
Yeah, and we don't usually go over an hour on a one-off episode, especially with one guest. But like it's
I put it on the same level as the season 6 episode in Clone Wars, where when we learn everything that is the backstory in episode 2.
yes, the
and
fives.
between two-
Yeah, the
yeah,
fives arc. Yeah.
No, because I mean, if you
not
think about it
Fives
though,
arc, the Yoda arc, the beginning of the Yoda
Me
arc.
and
the Yoda
Luke-
arc, yeah,
me and
yeah,
Luke have
yeah.
had our moments because my favorite show is Rebels and his is Clone Wars.
Mhm.
This episode just puts us together, and it created a great conversation.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Yeah,
And
course,
it's
I
a
mean,
culmination of my year-long journey to convert you guys to my series.
The
not
Separatist
there yet,
Republic.
but I mean, hey,
Did we close the chapter of the Republic versus Separatist propaganda?
Yes.
rest in peace, Mina Bonteri. I love you still.
Yep. But that's gonna be it for this episode. Pat, thank you so much for coming on.
Always a
can the
pleasure.
where can the good people follow you?
You guys can follow me right now on Saint Pat _ Separatist Rebel on TikTok and Saint Pat _ of Stars on Twitter.
Hereth.
You can find me at Hereth Productions on TikTok and Instagram, Hereth_edits on Twitter, Hereth on Hive. I finally brought that back for one episode. Haha, I'm not doing it again. And you can find me here on Pod Ones.
Char, where can the good people follow you?
You know, I'm surprised, Hereth. I mean, I feel like it's every single time you have to mention Hive, but
I haven't done it for like 6 episodes, Char.
We've beaten
Okay.
the horse.
The horse
It's
is dead.
dead.
Well, guess
Horse
what?
is
I brought it
dead.
back for a one-off joke.
Somehow, oh, Harris Hive Horse has returned.
And now it's back under the grave and will be
Yep.
blocked by like
Yep.
50 feet of stone.
Yep, it was all the Sith, but we were all the Jedi.
It's,
So,
it's better where it is.
Yeah.
but Char, where can the good people follow you?
Good people, you can find me on TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram at CharCharJ, as spelled right here. And you can find me here at the Pod Ones podcast every Thursday night as we cover our Star Wars Rebels rewatch. Next week, check us out as we cover Season 3, Episode 7 of Star Wars Rebels, Imperial Super Commandos.
And you can find us at the Pod Ones on all social medias. This will be after Celebration. So next week we will be back to regular scheduled programming.
Luke, I hope you had a really fun time. Hereth, I hope you had a really fun time. Pat, I have no idea if you're going.
I'm
No,
not
he's not going.
going.
Same here. Hey, high
yeah.
five, buddy. Welcome to the
Whoosh.
club, bro. But no, I hope you two have fun.
Yeah.
Or you two had fun.
Yeah,
You meeting Hayden
absolutely.
Christensen was a blast. Hereth,
I,
Yeah.
hey, Hereth, high five.
hopefully,
Bam!
Hopefully,
You
I've
just
heard all
smacked him on the top of the head.
Pat,
Hopefully, me and Char have heard all the crazy stories that Luke and Hereth got
I love
to
how-
London.
Luke. Oh well, by then I'll be back off of the Game of Thrones studios, or so you can.
By
see
then,
all
I'll
the
already
series
hear
of
the
that.
story about how Hereth got robbed in London.
No,
What
I can
the-
predict the future. I can predict the future.
You're going there.
Luke, protect him at all costs.
No.
We'll be hearing the story of how Luke got banned from Britain.
Why you gotta put that on
No,
me, Pat?
no. Luke's gonna get
Why you gotta put
excommunicated.
that on me?
Pat, I
Luke's
thought it
gonna
was
get
gonna be something.
excommunicated.
Pat, I thought it was gonna be a joke like
Pat.
Luke brings back like Alexa or something like that.
Pat, why you gotta do this to me? We were going so well. And then you decide to take a cheap shot at me.
Hey, you can cut this out.
No, I'm not cutting it out. I think
Great.
it's great, Chris. It's great.
Funny.
Luke, you're gonna get
No.
arrested.
Hey, Luke.
You didn't let me finish. It's
Okay.
because Luke pulled the sword for the stone, and they
Ah,
didn't want him.
I rule England.
Whoa.
Suck it, Charles.
I was gonna say,
I am Lord of the Anglo-Saxons.
And Brandon said, "No, we're not doing this."
well, Luke, we could just go back and do the entire episode over again.
No, let's.
Great idea. Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome in here today for episode 91 of
podcast.
Yeah.
All right. Man. Yeah. I have no
Kenny
idea.
must be rolling in his
Yeah,
rolling
yeah,
somewhere
yeah.
in Kansas. He's like,
thank you, everybody, for being patient with us, and we will have all of these out on time. That's why we pre-recorded them. Pat, thank you so much for squeezing us into your
Always.
very, very, very busy schedule. Can't wait to have you guys on. But that's gonna be it. We will see you next week live, back to normal after all the shenanigans.
with all the derailments.
Yeah, with all the derailments. But
When
may
all
the
the
fourth.
movies and new TV shows will be released.
God!
And everything.
Let the man end the show.
Yeah. May the force be with you
Always.
always.